Well, I'll always do the work. I did have something when you sent me the email about, I couldn't cancel last time because
Right.
it was within 24 hours. And I had the thought to send you an email and then I just didn't. And then later when you sent me, hey, in the future, could you do that? My first thought was, I don't trust my own thinking sometimes. Like I had
Hmm.
the thought to send you an email, right? And I'm not making excuses or anything. I just didn't even, I forgot about it until the last minute and then tried to cancel it. But it's like I dismiss my intuition. And almost every time I dismiss a thought like that, it seems like I should have listened to it. And so I don't listen to myself,
Hmm. Hmm.
and I don't know. Seems like it
Yeah.
happens often.
And do you find that idea that you don't listen to yourself stressful?
Well, it does afterwards because then it's like, oh man, I was thinking that. And I even, when I'm teaching a class, I even tell my students, if you have the thought that something's wrong or something should be done or something like that, don't just dismiss it. But then that's, but I do.
Don't do what I do. Yeah. Okay. So if you want, we could do some work on that. Like I shouldn't have dismissed that thought, or I should have listened to myself, or
Yeah, or
something along those.
maybe that thought is a higher level intuition, or instead of just a nagging. I don't know. But I mean, if someone else wants to do the work, that's fine. But like I said, I'm always up for doing the work.
Okay. All right. Well, let's try it. You
Okay.
should have listened to yourself. When you had that intuition, you should have listened to yourself and you should have reached out to me and sent an email right away. You should have done that. Is that true?
I want it to be.
Well, keep sitting.
The first answer, sitting in that is yes. There's a feeling of God. There's some part of me that's wiser than the part of me that's in this consciousness, and I keep dismissing it, and so I should listen to myself. So that, yes.
Okay. So, can you absolutely know it's true? You should have listened to yourself.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So, how do you react? What happens when you believe that you should have listened to yourself and you didn't? You didn't act on it. You didn't really listen.
I get a heavy feeling in my chest. I get a sinking feeling in my stomach, like I hear, you know better than that, in my head. I tell myself that I tell myself that dismissing it is fear based. Um, then of course I go right into, okay, well, should have said this, or I should have gone there, or I should have changed this, or whatever the circumstance is. But for that one, it's like, why? Then I start questioning myself, like, why didn't I? Or why didn't I? And then it's, I don't trust it. I don't trust myself, and then I go into the thought, well, you're gonna have to come up with some good excuse.
Yep.
And in all the situations that's happened, it's like, okay, I could say this happened or that happened, or um yeah. And it's like, I have the thought there must be something wrong with me. And then I start making notes and making lists of things to people I need to get back to, or it's like I think I'm thoughtless. Then I go and I go to the past and I see pictures of times that I've been angry at other people because they forgot something, and then they've just been honest with me and they just said I forgot, and so I look in the future of, well, just don't talk to anybody, and then you won't have that problem.
There's a solution.
Don't make any promises. Don't do anything. Don't go anywhere. That way you won't forget to do something or not think of something. I didn't even think of it at that point. And then I beat myself up afterwards. I don't know the repercussions of it, and then in my own head, I was thinking, oh, someone who really needed to do the work was probably kept from being able to get in there. And I prevented someone from being able to solve a problem in their life. And now it's my fault that they're suicidal. I mean, I'll just go crazy on that,
Yeah. Mine goes to the worst extremes, right?
Right.
Like, I should have listened to myself, and now people's lives are at stake.
And why don't I? Because it always gives me good advice. Always, It's,
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So who would you be without the thought? You should have listened to yourself.
More likely to listen to myself next time. Instead of making more excuses, instead of, and a little more forgiving of myself. More gracious and thankful for the reminder. Your reminder was very kind and loving. I appreciate that. And then I look at the bigger picture too. This is a gift you give us. This time of yours for free. So it's like, thank you for that. I recognize that respect for it. So and then it puts me in a place of, oh, I'm glad you pointed that out to me without the thought. I'm glad you pointed that out to me. I want to respect this time that you give us. And so I'll make sure that next time I contact you. And then I do notice that, I use being an introvert as my excuse for not communicating a lot. But sending an email is not that hard. So, yeah. And I know you're not mad. It's not like you'd have banned me.
So without the thought that you should have listened to yourself, how are you with yourself?
I you know what? I go into wonder. It's like, where is this voice coming from? This very wise voice that says, I just drop him an email and let him know. Where's that voice coming from? It's got to be a part of me. So there is some part of me that's smarter than the part of me I'm not listening to. So maybe it has something to say to me and I could hear it.
Yeah, I'm hearing like more interested in what that's all about.
Yeah.
When you're not beating yourself up with the thought, I should have listened to myself.
Right. Because that voice is not about beating me up. And it doesn't sound like my mother or anything. It sounds loving, I can hear now the tone of it. It's not, you should do this. And that might be, oh, wow, you should do this. Is triggering I'm not going to do that. Mm-hmm. You can't tell me what to do. But really the tone is, oh, just drop him an email. It's very loving. It's very supportive. It's a suggestion.
Yeah. So there's two ways.
Mhm.
When you didn't listen, you didn't act on it, and then you're looking back in retrospect, there's two ways to look at it. One is with the thought, I should have listened to myself, and the other is without the thought that I should have listened to myself. And
Yeah.
it's quite a difference. What do you
Mm.
notice just when you compare those two?
There's love in the idea that I have something to learn instead of you can't tell me what to do, right?
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
there's there's a gratitude. Oh, good idea. And then I can own that. Oh, I had a good idea.
Mm. Yeah. I know exactly what you mean. Like there's a kind of excitement, like, wow, I do have intuition, right? Like,
Yeah.
oh wow, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And it sees a bigger picture than me. It has access to more of my brain than I do.
right. And
Yeah.
and yeah, and this time I didn't act on it, but wow, okay, there is something there. Now
Yeah.
I know that it is there. That's
That's
first step.
cause
Maybe next time I'll actually do something with it.
I can celebrate, and I can practice that in my mind too.
Yeah.
Okay.
So how would you turn the thought around? I should have listened to myself.
I shouldn't have listened to my little self.
Okay.
The part that
Yeah.
said, no, I'm not going to, yeah. It's
Now
like,
you know there's two parts, right?
right.
There's this
And it
kind of
wasn't even a
intuitive.
no, it just was a shrug. It was a shrug, but it was still a shrug off, right?
Right.
Yeah. So, yeah, I shouldn't have listened to little self.
Okay. So, I mean, this is true. It still has a little flavor of the same kind of stressful thought of like, oh, I should have listened to my intuitive self and not to my other self. So,
So
is
it's
there
still
any
not
other
really a
turnaround?
turnaround.
Yeah, it's kind of
Um,
almost a spin there a little bit, but it's okay.
I should have
It's a start.
responded to myself,
Okay. What does that mean to you?
meaning I was not responding to my big self. I was responding as my little self. And
Right.
so
So again,
I
that's
could
kind
have
of like,
still not communicated with you, but I could have thanked. I could have been grateful for the higher
mhm,
self advice.
mhm. The only thing is, again, this turnaround sort of has that feeling of spin again. Like it's like, but I should have done that. It's still, I should have listened to myself and responded and not paid attention to my small self. So it's kind of similar to where we started. I should have listened to myself.
Well, I should not
But
have listened to myself would be
that would be an
that's
opposite.
okay.
So let's look at that.
Okay.
How could that opposite be as true or truer? I
I
should
should not
not
have
have
listened to
listened to
myself
myself.
because I didn't.
That's the reality of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So no amount of wanting you to have listened to yourself is going to change that.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so keep going. I should not have listened to myself. Why was it a good thing? Where's the value in that situation?
I could use some help with this.
Okay. Yeah, I can give you a few ideas.
Mm-hmm.
I should not have listened to myself. Why would I want to have not listened to myself? Because it gives me direct and strong feedback about that. And that is, for me, what really kicks in my learning process. So when I do something quote unquote wrong, that's when I really start to get it.
Mm. Because it made enough of an impact on me
Yes,
that I'm very interested in hearing it now.
exactly.
Where if I had just listened, then I might not have the skill to determine when it really is that part the higher mind versus my ego.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it helped me discern the level of that voice.
Because you're still in the learning process of learning to listen to yourself. So this is when you need those clear distinctions and what works and what doesn't work, and seeing the feedback, getting really clear. Like if you were down the road and you were just fluent in listening to yourself all the time, then the original statement might be true, but that's not where you actually are. So in the learning process,
good.
it has to be broken down.
Yeah, you're right, because I am getting the tone down. There's a tone that in this particular case I sat and listened to it. I mean, afterwards, it's like, why? Okay. And then the other self that talks to me is defensive and sarcastic and judgmental.
And
this one wasn't.
It's a subtle voice, that intuitive voice, very subtle. And it takes some getting used to when there's something else louder saying, don't worry about that. So it takes some skill and some experience to know that little tiny voice is actually the one to listen to. And so it actually, doing it wrong, quote unquote, is the fastest way, in my experience, to get clear.
Because I actually now have a pretty clear feeling of where that voice comes from, and it comes from a different place. Yeah. Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah. So this is the learning process, right? I should have. Like Edwin and I often talk about the fastest way to learn a language is to like make as many mistakes as you can possibly make. And then you really remember those mistakes.
Oh my God, I did that. I did that in Israel. I said the wrong word in Hebrew, and I was trying to say it's hot in here, and I said I'm horny.
You'll never forget that word. Like it's imprinted in your brain from then on.
The looks I got. Anyway, yeah, you're right. So I know that word really well now.
Yeah. So thank God you didn't listen to yourself, because this little tiny situation got imprinted in your brain a little more. Now it's even more after doing this work. You have a reference there. So the next time that little feeling, that little subtle intuitive thought comes up, the chances of you listening to it are greater than they've ever been in the past.
Definitely.
Yeah. So another way to look at this turnaround, which is I shouldn't have listened to myself, is, and this is something you can use with any should statement, I use it all the time, is how is it understandable that you didn't listen to yourself? Why shouldn't you have listened to yourself? Give yourself some credit in terms of why it's understandable that you didn't, given your state at that point, or given your experience at that point.
I was trying to get on an airplane. They just called my row. Yeah.
Like, I should stop and send an email to Todd right now.
I could have let other people get on in front of me.
Yeah. So understandable. That's what we're talking about. So understandable.
And then once I got on the plane, I could have done it then too, but it's like.
But understandable. You go into a different world. You go into an airplane, it's like you're in a whole different world. I could text one more thing, but there's a part of me that's just letting go of everything as I'm transitioning
just get on the
into flying. So this is really important to find these examples too. Like I shouldn't have listened to myself because what was going on there. It's so understandable that I was busy traveling, getting on an airplane. And when you look at the priorities, that was lower down on the priority list. That's all.
Yeah. Well, I was trying to tell myself because I had arrived at the airport early enough that if I had been thinking about it, I would have done it. So I didn't even think about it until it was too late.
And there's another
Right.
example. I shouldn't have listened to myself because when I finally did think of it, it was too late. I could have, but I didn't have that luxury because the thought came at this time.
And then it was like, okay, send him an
Yeah,
email. I got to get on an
yeah,
airplane. But
yeah,
and then I'm like, well, you could have done it when you got your seat, all that stuff. But it just doesn't work that way all the time.
exactly.
Okay.
So all those things, like one is the should have, like how it's understandable just softens it a bit. And then the other one, which was
Yeah, like
the heart of it, was that I should not have listened to myself because that negative experience, if you will, is what really accelerates the learning process for the next time. The only reason I think I should have listened to myself is because I was believing I should be ahead of my own evolution. I should be really good at this when I'm not.
oh,
But in
wow.
reality, I'm not ahead of my own evolution. I'm right here at my own pace of evolution. And right now, I'm in the learning process of how to listen to
Wow.
myself. And so as soon as I come back to where I actually am, I'm in second grade, then I just do my arithmetic. I don't try to do algebra. And then I'm comfortable with that. So I shouldn't have listened to myself when I take into to, to consideration where I actually am on this. I'm not like a super fluent self listener, intuitive kind of. I'm a baby. That's all. So let me be that and enjoy that stage of life.
Definitely, baby.
I'm not saying you're a baby, but I consider myself the same.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. Thank you.